So we've talked a lot about mixing musically. So for people who may not have years of experience in music, and this all sounds like a great theory, how do we make it practical for people?
Well, I do have the advantage of being able to approach things as a musician. I do have training as a musician. But I think from a technical, sort of practical standpoint, there's things that we can all do. Most people who are sitting in the chair behind the console like music. So first and foremost, I would say listen to a lot of music. Listen to CDs, listen to recordings that really sound good from a standardized, this sounds good point of view. Listen to Grammy-winning records. Listen to, historically significant albums, and go, okay, what is it that makes this mix sound great? They give Grammys every year for mix engineers. So let's listen to those guys' work and say, okay, what are they doing to make this balanced, incredibly wide stereo perspective? How do they get that sound? And being aware of these guys know what the most interesting thing is going on right now, and they're going to feature that. They're going to have the right balance between a vocal and an electric guitar so that they don't compete with each other. It's being aware of the material. But then also from a technical, practical standpoint, I think it's knowing what each of your tools is capable of doing. For example, I have this, fully parametric EQ in front of me. How can I use that to sculpt the sound? So first and foremost, you have to know what the EQ does. So I would say, on your own, at home, with a tool like GarageBand or some kind of music tool that you have in your computer, get a solo acoustic guitar recording, plug it into your GarageBand, put an EQ on the track, and just play with it and say, okay, what does it do when I boost 500 hertz, 6 dB? Why is that not appealing? What if I do the same to that frequency, cutting 6 dB? How does that change the sound? What does it do if I boost the low end? How do I get, where is that, if I call it muddy, what is that frequency? So that you can really be aware of what individual frequencies do across the frequency spectrum. So that you can identify when you sit down at the console on a Sunday morning, if you hear this upper mid-range honk that's just parting your hair because it's so loud, you know where that's coming from. Is that from the electric guitar? Is it from the acoustic guitar? Is it from the vocal? Is it from the B3? So that you know where to start cutting. Is it in the system itself? Is there something wrong with the PA? I mean, there's a lot of technical things that we really need to be aware of. But I think, we're in an age where we have more and more and more tools at our disposal. I think it's important also to realize that we don't have to use every tool every time. There are times when I sit down at a digital console that's fully loaded with any plugin I could ever want, and I might use a couple of plugins. Just because a compressor and an EQ and a gate is available on every channel doesn't necessarily mean that I should utilize that on every channel. So it's knowing your tools, it's being aware of how to use them and when not to use them, I think, is really important.